I began seeing calls in younger individuals with symptoms and presentations that you wouldn't really expect to see in like younger individuals, and I'm talking like 20s, 30s, 40s, having like stroke-like symptoms, TIAs, neurological problems, cardiac problems, like that kind of stuff that you might see once in a while. Those, like prior to the vaccine rollout, you might see the odd case of that, but I was seeing them like fairly regularly. Narcoleptic type symptoms where people are just falling asleep, young people are just falling asleep. I had one that fell asleep at the steering wheel in a gas station, like after she had pumped her gas. She fell asleep and somebody called 911 because she was sleeping in the car, and this was not at 2 in the morning, this was like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. She was on her way home from work.
For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini here at the National Citizens Inquiry that's currently taking place in Toronto, Ontario. They started last week in Nova Scotia over the course of 3 days. Now they're here in Toronto for 3 days, and then they will move forward all across the country, hearing testimony from Canadians on how the pandemic-related responses caused grotesque harm and carnage, really. And so I'm joined here with, I suppose, former paramedic then, Sean Mitchell, who was working in the Durham region pre-COVID and throughout a little bit of the pandemic hysteria. And you had a really compelling testimony here about what you were seeing throughout 2020, which was actually a reduction in calls. So can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so my experience through the early pandemic and early 2020 was, we joked about it as paramedics. It was the best thing that ever happened. We went from severe high call volume pre-pandemic to a very steep drop-off in calls that I experienced personally, and that was confirmed by my management staff on multiple pieces of correspondence where our call volume had dropped off to the point where they were actually deferring ambulances that they had scheduled to be enhanced. So they had funding to enhance staffing, and they deferred it to a later date in early 2020.
Now, some of the content that we're gathering here at the National Citizens Inquiry goes against the community standards of certain censorious platforms. And if you'd like to hear the rest of this interview or any of these interviews in full, you can join us on another platform that does not engage in censorship of lived experiences or real data. Please scroll down to the description below and you can be redirected there with a link to another platform where you can watch these videos in full. I'll see you over there.